Viewers and friends, good day. All of you had heard about the Franz Kafka, the very famous man in the literature, Franz Kafka, the famous author of The Trial, Metamorphosis, and The Castle. Today I'm going to discuss with you about the Metamorphosis of Franz Kafka. So let us see what is here in this novella. The hero of this and the protagonist of this novella is Gregor Samsa, a traveling salesman, wakes up one day in his bed to find himself transformed in a large insect. He looks around his room, which appears normal, and decides to go back to sleep to forget about what has happened. He attempts to roll over, only to discover that he cannot due to his new body. He is stuck on his hard convict's back. He tries to scratch and itch on his stomach, but when he touches himself with one of his many new legs, he is disgusted. He reflects on how dreary life as a traveling salesman is, and how he would quit if his parent and sister did not depend so much on his income. He turns to the clock and sees that he has overslept and missed his train to work. Gregor's mother knocked on the door, and when he answers her, Gregor finds that his voice has changed. His family suspect that he may be ill, so they may ask him to open the door. When he keeps locked out of habit, he tries to get out of the bed, but he cannot maneuver his transformed body. While struggling to move, he hears his office manager come into the family's apartment to find out why Gregor has not shown up to work. He eventually rocks himself to the floor and calls out he will open the door momentarily. Through the door, the office manager warns Gregor of the consequences of missing work and hints that Gregor's recent work has not been satisfactory. Gregor protests and tells the office manager that he will be there shortly. Neither his family nor the office manager can understand what Gregor says, and they suspect that something may be seriously wrong with him. Gregor managed to unlock and open the door with his mouth. Since he has no hands, he begs the office manager forgiveness for his late start. Horrified by Gregor's appearance, the office manager bolts from the apartment. Gregor tries to catch up with the fleeing office manager, but his father drives him back into the bedroom with a cane and a rolled newspaper. Gregor injures himself, squeezing back through the doorway, and his father slams the door shut. Gregor, exhausted, falls asleep. Gregor wakes and sees that someone has put milk and bread in his room. Initially excited, he quickly discovers that he has no taste for milk. Once one of his favorite food, he settles himself under a couch and listens to the quiet apartment. The next morning, his sister Grete comes in, sees that he has not touched the milk, and replaced it with rotten food scraps, which Gregor happily eats. This begins a routine in which his sister feeds him and cleans up while he hides under the couch. Afraid that his appearance will frighten her, Gregor spent his time listening through the wall to his family members talking. They often discuss the difficult financial situation they find themselves in now that Gregor can't provide for them. Gregor also learned that his mother wants to visit him, but his sister and father will not let her. Gregor grows more comfortable with his changed body. He begins climbing the walls and sailing for amusement. Discovering Gregor's new pastime, Grete decides to remove some of the furniture to give Gregor more space. She and her mother begin taking furniture away from the room, but Gregor finds their action deeply distressing. He tries to save a picture on the wall of a woman wearing a fur hat, fur scarf, and a fur muff. Gregor's mother sees him hanging on the wall and passes out. Grete calls out to Gregor the first time anyone spoken directly to him since his transformation into a big buck. Gregor runs out of room and into the kitchen. His father returned from his new job and misunderstanding the situation, believing that Gregor has tried to attack the mother. The father throws apple at Gregor's and once sinks into his bag and remains lodged there. Gregor managed to get back into his bedroom but is severely injured. Gregor's family begins leaving the bedroom door open for a few hours each evening so he can watch them. He sees his family wearing down as a result of his transformation and their new poverty. Even Grete seems to resent Gregor now, feeding him and cleaning up with a minimum of effort. The family replaced their maid with a cheap cleaning lady who tolerates Gregor's appearances and speaks to him occasionally. They also take on 3 boarders, requiring them to 3 boarders. 3 persons came to live in their home as a tenant, requiring them to move excessive furniture to Gregor's room, which distressed Gregor. Gregor has also lost his taste for food. Grete brings, and he almost entirely ceases eating. One evening, the cleaning lady leaves Gregor's door open while boarders lounge about the living room. Grete has been asked to play the violin for them, and Gregor creeps out of his bedroom to listen. The boarders or the tenant who initially seemed interested in Grete grow bored with her performance, but Gregor is transfixed by it. One of the boarders spots Gregor and they became alarmed. Gregor's father tries to shove the boarders back into their room, but the 3 men protest and announces that they will move out immediately without paying rent because of the disgusting condition in their apartment. So what happened that Grete tells her parent that they must get rid of Gregor now, or they will all be ruined. Her father agrees, wishing Gregor could understand them and would leave of his own accord. Gregor does in fact understand, and they started to get rid of him because of his newly transformed condition. And Gregor also started to understand that they are fed up from their family, their mother, sister, and father, and understands, slowly moves back to the bedroom. They are determined to rid his family of his presence. Gregor finally dies. Upon discovering that Gregor is dead, the family feels a great sense of relief. The father kicks out the boarders and decides to fire the cleaning lady who has disposed of Gregor's body. The family takes a trolley ride out of the countryside, during which they consider their finances. Months of spare living as a result of Gregor's condition have left them with substantial saving. They decide to move on to a better apartment. Gregor appeared to have her strength and beauty back. Appeared to have strength and beauty back, which leads her parents to think about finding her husband. So this is the story of Metamorphosis of Franz Kafka. Now coming back to the characters, how many characters, as I told you, that there are 3 characters. Gregor, the protagonist of this novella. Gregor Samsa, traveling salesman, a protagonist of the story. Gregor hates his job but keeps it because of the obligation he feels to pay off his father's debt and care for his family. He transforms into a large bug, a large cockroach, and spends the rest of life in that state. Although hideous and unrecognized to other, Gregor retains some of his inner life and struggles to reconcile his lingering humanity with his physical condition. The other character is Grete Samsa, her kind sister. Gregor's sister is a young woman on the cusp of adulthood. She initially shows great concern for Gregor, but her compassion gives way to possessiveness and resentment as the effect of Gregor's transformation on her life slowly takes their toll. Gregor's father, the failure of his business has left him exhausted and emotionally broken, and he is forced to return to work again after Gregor's metamorphosis. So the mother, Gregor's mother, frail and distressed, the mother is torn between her love for Gregor and her horror at the Gregor's new state. Grete and Gregor seek to protect her from the full reality of her son's transformation. The chairwoman, the elderly widow, Samsa's family cleaning lady, the office manager, Gregor's boss, distrustful and overbearing, the boarders, the maid. These are the character involved in this. So, as far as the themes of this novella is concerned, ladies and gentlemen, Franz Kafka told us about the absurdity of life. Beginning with his first sentence, Metamorphosis deals with an absurd or wildly irrational event in which itself suggests the story operates in a random, chaotic universe. The absurd event is the Gregor's waking up to discover he has turned into a giant insect, and since it's too far behind the boundaries of natural, it is just unlikely to happen. It's physical, impossible. Gregor metamorphosis takes on a supernatural significance. As also notable, the story never explained Gregor's transformation. So the response of various characters to the sense of absurdity, specifically, they seemed almost as absurd as Gregor's transformation itself. The characters are unusually calm and unquestioning, and most don't act particularly surprised by them. So the disconnect between body and mind. Gregor's transformation completely alters his outward appearance, but leaves his mind unchanged because he was a human being. He changed into a big bug. So, but the brain remains the same. The body changed, his mind unchanged, creating a discord or lack of harmony between his mind and body. When he first gets out of his bed after walking, for instance, he tries to stand up upright even though his body is not suited to being upright. He also thinks of going to work. despite the fact that he can't by any means do so. And when Grete leaves him with milk at the beginning of part 2, he's surprised to find out he doesn't like it, even though milk was favorable drink to him. When he was human, in essence, he continues to think about a human mind, but because his body is no longer human, he's unable at first to reconcile these two parts of himself. So Gregor became accustomed to his new body. His mind begins to change in accordance with his physical needs and desires. So these are the circumstances, the limits of sympathy of their parents towards Gregor and his new transformation. And after all, above all, the theory of alienation involved in this novella. Perhaps the psychological distance it creates between Gregor and all those around him. Gregor change make him literally emotionally separate from his family member instead from humanity in general. He even referred to it as his imprisonment. After his transformation, he stays almost exclusively in his room and with his door closed and almost no contact with other people. At most so this is the alienation which created in the life of Gregor Samsa. And above all, Franz Kafka tell us about when you became in a state of helplessness, you cannot help yourself, you cannot change yourself. That something has imposed on you. Your physical appearance has changed. You're transformed in a buck. So this is the biggest human helplessness Franz Kafka had depicted in his novella. I think, ladies and gentlemen, when you read this, kindly like and subscribe this channel. Thank you very much.